True crime. From cold cases to serial killers, missing persons, and more.
100% he did this.
I'd go off into fantasy world.
How much more lucky can you get that you're not on death row?
You want to know what we know.
My name is Jay. This is Guilty of Crime.
Hello, everybody. Can you guys hear me okay? Mic check. 1, mic check 2. Hello, everybody. Jay with Guilty of Crime. I'm here. And I'm glad everybody that's coming in is coming in. It's a Friday. And I got to see one of my friends today. And he's awesome. Street Side Auto Body. San Jose, folks. So if you're in the Bay Area, this is not a commercial. This is my friend, Ben. Amazing. He's like a teddy bear. And I got to see some of my friends today. It was nice. So happy Friday. I'm trying to see if I'm going to be able to hear through these headphones and wait for everybody to come in. So today we are catching up on I like to call it the Corey Micciolo case. People like to call it the treadmill, however you want to call it. Anyhow, every time I do this case, it definitely gets flagged by YouTube. They're not fans of this, and I'm not a fan of what Christopher Gregor did. However, I have to tell it how it is, and I try to be in the most gentle way that I can. So happy Friday, everybody. Hello, Kim Princess. Today we're going to talk about the treadmill murder, body cam footage updates, and I know a lot of you all are watching this case. If you're watching this case and you want to fill in the blanks in chat, feel free to do so. Deception Detective came on and one of my chats or comments and asked if we would like him to, it'd be interesting, he said, to cover Christopher Gregor as a sadist. And I think so too. So if you think Deception Detective should cover this case, hit that like button, please. Hit it 4 times, not just once, but if you hit it twice, you're going to unlike it. And then you got to hit it again. So Deception Detective, I'd love to see him cover that. You know, I'm a fan of DD. All right, everybody, we're going to start with this News Nation clip. And this was a year ago. Yes, DD, cover the sadist. I agree. I've done Dr. G Explains, and then we're going to do Dr. Grande today. So DD covering him would be amazing, especially if our little old channel could get him to do so. So hello, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. We're back covering this, hopefully justice. I see other things coming out for Madeline Soto every single day. And there's more I have to cover on it. So let's listen to this because I want you to see that this was a year ago that this happened. And now we're in trial. I don't know if it's the middle or towards the end, but this was a year ago. And this little boy still ended up not being alive with us.
Called Child Protective Services 100 times.
Bree Micciolo.
100 times. Because her little boy kept coming home bruised and beaten when he visited his dad's. 100 times. And then there was this one last time, and it was a biggie. It was an emergency order seeking full custody. Emergency to the Department of Child Protection in New Jersey. Emergency. He can't go to his dad's tomorrow at 9 a.m. It can't go on. It can't. And the judge said, no.
All right. And that's where this started. Now, there was a whole bunch of other things before and between. We know about the backstory with the mother, Bree. I'm not saying she's a saint by any means. Her culpability is not being there for her son 100% and doing methamphetamines, other drugs. That is not okay. But Bree Micciolo did call 100 times, and I'm going to show you the channel after that she started, and there's an hour and a half of it. I'm not going to play it all. I played a clip the other day. She really was trying to get justice for Corey. She was trying to get him out, and it didn't work. And that's where we start here, everybody. with this vicious crime by Christopher Gregor, who I do think is a sadist, everybody. Everything's alleged. This channel is alleged until innocent until proven guilty. And we're here to discuss topics, and everybody doesn't have to have the same opinion. I appreciate you having different ones, but I'm not going to throw shade at the mom. I'm going to say she messed up and she tried to fix it and it was too late. So that's what I'm going to say about that. What's up, Athena? Let's finish this clip and we're going to get into body cam footage and we're going to talk about whether you think the jury is going to see it the way we do. And I'll explain why I say that. All right, there's Bree Micciolo's. That's her picture.
And so Bree loaded that little boy into the car and she took that little boy to his dad's. And 9 hours later, that little boy, Corey Micciolo, is dead. And there's the result right there. His dad's mugshot, charged with murder. How does this happen? How does this happen? Bree Micciolo is live with me now. Bree, I am so incredibly sorry that we are meeting under these circumstances. It's unbelievable that this can happen in this day and age. Why, after 100 calls and an emergency desperate...
Now remember, this is a year ago, everybody, and then I'll show you quickly how 2 years ago she tried to get it stopped. She went out onto YouTube, started a channel. She's not a saint. As a matter of fact, her text message shows that she was trying to get methamphetamine around the time when her son was sick and going to the hospital, etc. So I'm not giving her a freebie pass, but I am telling this how it is. Oh, sorry about that. That's how it is.
Plea, were you denied the opportunity to keep your child alive?
I don't know if it was incompetence on DCPMP's side or they just didn't believe me, but I collected evidence. There was a video of it happening, so I honestly do not know how it was not clear as day that he was being abused. It makes no sense to me, and I don't think it ever will.
I can't show the video right now because it hasn't been released, but I'm going to describe it for our viewers. It's at a...
And this is actually kind of nice that it wasn't released back then, because right now that's all I see on every channel. And I feel like we don't need to be so brutal all the time, but some things need to be shown once or twice to get the point across, and obviously to the jury. So it's kind of nice that they didn't have it back then and that we were talking about it without seeing the brutality of it. But that is part of true crime, unfortunately.
Gym, where the allegations are and the video purports to show his dad putting him on a treadmill and continuously upping the speed, even though Corey can't keep up and keeps falling off the back. He's grabbed by his shirt and put back on the moving treadmill. He struggles constantly to gain his footing. At one point, his father, Christopher Gregor, appears to bite the top of his head. Even despite all of this, the court said this: they do not find that Corey is in danger of imminent and irreparable harm. Therefore, the court does not find a temporary modification of the parties' custody and parenting time arrangement appropriate at this time. This was the day before Corey died. And then after Corey died, the judge said, the video was viewed by the court, really speaks for itself in illustrating that this defendant did abuse this child. I think when you watch the video, it is fair to say that anyone who would
Do you hear that, everybody? And I know you're watching this case, but just a reminder, the video was viewed by the court. That video that we've watched a bunch of times and that will probably come up again in between all this was actually watched by a judge and it was denied. That's unbelievable that that happened. We should never have been here. And that's a problem that's bigger than us individuals. It has to be addressed on a larger scale. And we're going to talk about that on the next Madeline Soto show episode, whatever. I want to talk about that before we get into anything else further with her case.
Do this to a child does pose a significant risk to the community. Is that the same judge or is that a different judge based on now the murder allegation?
It was two different judges.
Have they spoken? Has there been any consensus among law enforcement and authorities that they completely failed you and that because of that, your beautiful little 6-year-old boy, Corey, is no longer with us?
No one's going to admit that they thought the abuse was going on before, because that just shows they were wrong. But now that he passed away, all of a sudden, everyone is like, how didn't we know? You did know. You were just ignorant, I guess you can say.
Can I ask you, Bree, as...
Now, before she asks Bree a question, what is it that you didn't know, Carly? I'm curious. A lot of people are following this case, and you didn't know that the day before the judge saw this actual treadmill video that we're all watching and saying guilty automatically. If you look at Deb Basil says, I'm on the jury watching that video, listening. The problem is with the justice system, it doesn't work like that. You look at the video and they tell you it happened this day, but he passed away this day. But in between all that, they tell you the mom was a drug addict and she did this and she went 4 different times to there and she was looking for drugs. And they throw all this stuff in the middle of it and try to get one person not to find him guilty. And there's one person that can not find him guilty, folks. So I want you to know that, yeah, as much as we say all that, there was a time frame in between, and people are looking at Bree and looking all over the place. They're not looking at the judges that should have done the right thing or any of that. They're just looking at it's the defense. It's what the justice system does. It's how they work.
As the litigation moves forward in Corey's father's murder case, are you also launching civil litigation against the authorities who ignored your 100 different calls and attempts to keep that child away from him?
Absolutely. They need to be held accountable. This happens too often. I've heard other stories from other parents of the same thing, and something has to give. Something has to change. I don't know why this is allowed to happen.
It shouldn't be.
It's unfathomable to us as well. And I hope you'll keep us abreast of your efforts to find justice, not only for yourself, but also against the person who is alleged to have done this horrific thing to his own flesh and blood, his own baby boy. Bree, again, I'm sorry we're speaking under these circumstances, and I wish you all the strength in the world as you move forward.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Bree Micciolo joining us live. I would like to just show some pictures of Corey,
yes,
6
please.
years old, and so precious. So many more people should have protected that little boy and did not do it. Thank you for watching. Go to News Nation.
All right. Yeah. Go to News Nation. Check it out for sure. We love all of the news clips and everything that comes up with the case. Anybody that's covered it, that was a year ago, everybody. So before I get into the body cam footage and such, I want you to see that Bree actually was trying to get justice, not just going on the news station, but she also had a channel. Many of you saw the clip, and I was surprised to actually see where it came from. I didn't realize that she had a channel. Bree Micciolo had a channel, and she was doing it with her friend trying to get justice. I just thought she was on someone's channel talking about it after the fact. No, she was actually trying to get justice by herself. You know how we go online. So let me find that video. It's called Justice for Our Boys, and I'm going to play this because I want you to see that her and her friend were both trying to, and they're doing exactly what we do now. We go online and we speak our thoughts and we tell our truths. And again, it's our thoughts, our truths, our ideas, and how everybody perceives things. So look at that. It says Bree and Cara, and it says Justice for Our Boys is what it's called. It's on YouTube. And it was a year and a half ago or 2 years ago. And it says Justice for Corey. And I don't see the other name. Let me check real quick. Justice, they still cut off the name, but it's James Riker Beale. We'll discuss our son's story and our journey. So it's actually Bree Micciolo's channel. Can you see that right there? I'm showing you. Anyway, I don't know if anybody's seen this, but I'm going to just kind of show you what she was trying to do before all of this happened. She went on the news. She flagged them 100 times. She went online and she tried to have a voice. This was August 25th, 2021. We're in 2024. All right. Let's play this for a little bit. Not too much.
Yeah. Okay.
Hi, I'm Kara with Justice for James. My son is James Riker Beale. I had asked Bree from Justice for Corey to do a live video with me today. We have very similar stories. Both of our sons have passed, and it's considered undetermined.
We're going to talk about Christopher Gregor and his background too. Don't you worry. We're going to talk about both of them, even though we have information. We're going to put it out there, and I don't forget his history. It's insane that he was able to get away with this. And I think it's how he looks. Like his look, he was a spoiled brat. He was a lot of things. Sadist.
undetermined for a 7-year-old boy and a 2-year-old boy is completely unacceptable. You don't have undetermined deaths for children who are those ages. It doesn't make sense. There's something seriously wrong with it. And both of us have had involvement in the family court system. Both of us have had involvement with DCFS. And both of us actually put forward, I put forward 3 emergency motions. I don't know how many you put forward, Bree.
Yeah, it was one. Yeah.
Before the court, proving that there was something going on, abuse concerns, child pornography concerns for me, and it was completely ignored. It was completely ignored by 2 judges, and it ended up with my son dying. And just same with Bree, is her son ended up dying because
yeah, this is not okay, and they want justice. So this was before, I guess this was after him passing, but it was years ago, because this case has been dragging, and we don't want the jury to see it in a light that the judge saw it. Don't forget, the judge saw that video, and yet he still handed Corey back to him. So everybody says, oh, he's guilty. He's guilty. I could see if I was on the jury. No, it doesn't mean that. So let's just listen to this for a little bit, and then we'll get into Bodycam. I just want to see her in this light. I dropped the link in the chat.
Emergency motion was ignored when there was absolute proof of child abuse. So that is our introduction. That is what we are going to be going over today when we are talking to you as the public. I'm going to allow Bree to introduce herself, and then I will introduce myself. We'll give a little bit of background, and then Bree is going to go into her story, or should I say Corey's story, and she's going to give some very troubling details. So if you are faint of heart, if you are easily triggered, we are going to be discussing sexual assault. We are
Yeah, I shouldn't even. Let's go a little bit further now. You guys, I dropped that in the link. Every time I play this video, it's so bad and brutal. I try. So trigger warning on this whole video. Everybody, there's nothing I can do when I'm covering a case. Again, I came on here to talk about serial killers originally, and that's how I started my channel, and that's brutal. So that's brutal. This is brutal. So trigger warning all across the board.
Like I said, I stayed away from him for a long time. He knew I was pregnant. He knew he was the father. He didn't come around much for 5 years, and he did once in a while, but it was very briefly, just here and there for 5 years. And then when Corey was 5 years old, I went and applied for government assistance.
Okay, this whole thing's going to tell the entire story. I know you've heard it, or you may not have. This is why Corey is back in Dad's life after those many years. And remember, she was 16. Bree was 16 when she got pregnant, and it was from a SA of Christopher Gregor. He just took what he wanted from her, and he got her pregnant, and then he told her to have an abortion, folks. She didn't do it. She kept him away. Obviously, she had personal problems, and then she needed money. Here's the story. Let's listen to it for a little bit. Then we'll get back into Christopher Gregor.
I didn't know that doing that made them go and file for child support themselves. Like it was them against Christopher at first for child support. I didn't know that was going to happen. If I did, I wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have applied. But they asked me who his father was, and I told them. And so they went ahead and filed for child support. And that's how he came around. For a while, he just paid the child support. And I guess at some point, his family found out that he took a DNA test and Corey was his child. And I believe that his parents forced him to go to court and get visitation. So once the visitation started immediately, that's when Corey started coming home with his bruises. The first incident, he came home, I think it was the second visit with him, and he came home with a busted lip. Christopher dropped him off by the driveway.
Yeah, this is a good way to hear the story directly from the mother, not being in court, not having restrictions, not having cross-examination where you're getting, attacked by the defense attorney that's going to say anything to get their client off. So I hope you guys can go watch this afterwards. It's an hour and a half long, and I put the link in chat.
And Corey walked up, and then once he came inside, Chris sped off. And then Corey came inside, and I could see that he had a busted lip and he had some blood on his shirt. And I asked Corey what happened. At first, he was hesitant. He didn't want to tell me. And I asked Christopher, he didn't answer me. So I decided to take Corey to the police station, which he was afraid to tell them what happened, but they ended up calling DCPMP. And they came out and they did their investigation and they talked to everyone. And Corey didn't tell them what it was, but he told me and my sister that Christopher smacked him in the mouth because he had cursed. And Chris told them that he accidentally kicked.
Yeah, this is before the incident. There was a bunch of before the incidents. Of course, Kimberly Mann. So this video was after the incident, but her seeking some kind of justice for Corey so that he didn't end up not alive didn't work. And she's just giving us a backstory on it, but they go for an hour and a half. So you guys can go back and watch this after.
Corey in the mouth while he was going to kick a soccer ball. But of course, Corey had a different story. And that case got closed because they felt like it was unsubstantiated. And then after that, the next time Corey came home and it looked like he had like rug burn all up and down his arm, all up and down his torso. And he looked like he had a handprint on his face. And I asked Corey what that was about. And he told me that his dad thought he was too fat. And he made him run on the treadmill. I asked Chris about it, and he said the same thing, that he...
That's their audio. I can't fix it, but I didn't know where that fat came from, that story about him being too fat and working him out on the treadmill. I didn't know where it came from until I heard this, because that kid is not fat whatsoever at all, any way, shape, or form. So obviously his dad was just telling him whatever and abusing him and using it as an excuse to play soccer and kick him in the lip, run on the treadmill and shame him and abuse him, period.
Thought Corey was too fat and I needed to stop feeding him fast food. So then I called DCPMP, and I guess they thought it was okay for him to do that, but they did tell him that you can't put him on the treadmill anymore. And
I'm sorry about
obviously he did again. After that, I have calls with DCPMP every week. There was different incidences where Corey would have a busted lip, black eyes, bruises all over his body.
Can you guys hear the static? Because it sounds okay. Okay, I can hear static on my side, so I'll keep playing it. I don't know what the static is coming from, but if you can hear it, that's okay.
And then I'm gonna fast forward to March 20th, when not the next incident, but the latest incident. So Chris took Corey to the gym. He had a gym in his complex. And what he did to Corey was caught on surveillance camera. I didn't know this until after Corey passed away. No one told me about it.
Thank
you. So Christopher made Corey get on the treadmill, and then
Okay, so the static's off and on, and it's on their end. I appreciate you, Bree, for letting me know. It's gonna end soon, so sorry about that. I can't fix it. That's how it is when you go to their channel as well.
Set it up as fast as could, and Corey couldn't keep up with it, so he fell and hit his chest. I've never seen the video because I don't want to see that. I don't want that memory stuck in my head. But the way, I'm just telling everyone the way it was described to me. So he fell and hit his chest 6 or 7 times. And then Chris walked over to Corey and picked him up by the back of his shirt. And sorry. So
damn. All right, let's go a little bit further. You guys can go back and watch this. I just wanted to give you a background on what happened and how it happened and hearing their side without being in court.
He was sick and, throwing up maybe. And because he was fine earlier in the morning. And then I get a knock on my door and it's the cops. And I just figured like, oh, they're here. They're going to tell me where Corey is. And yeah, that's when they told me that Corey passed away.
So heartbreaking. All right, so we know that happened. Let's hear a little more, and then we'll go get into the case, the updates.
Escalating. He found out about my plans to leave. He confronted me at work in front of my boss.
Okay, so basically, we're talking about abuse here from two women, both ended in tragedy, and they're wanting justice. And they're going to social media to try to get it. Now, when you go to social media to try to get justice, a lot of times you'll get people emailing you and saying, hey, we're working on a bill, or maybe we can help you, or other people wanting to come together and sign a bill. So it's always good to have public attention when you really want to make change. And that's what they seem like they were trying to do. Thank you, Jojo. You guys want to win a membership? I saw that in the comments earlier. Just be active on the channel. You don't have to even be on the video today. Make comments, hit the like button. Make sure you're subscribed. Thank you, Jojo. Listen to a little bit of her story because Kara deserves to be heard. And then we'll get into the body cam and everything else for the week.
My client's husband, my client's son, and my client's wife, in front of all these people. He confronted me and he said, how could you do the one thing that would make me kill myself? And I looked at him and I was like, you keep raping me and threatening to kill me. Like, what else am I supposed to do? Like, I don't understand what you want from me.
Right.
And he was trying to get me to go in the car alone with him. And my boss, well, she was like, it wasn't, not exactly my boss. It's just another part of my clients, but she's the one basically that it's an agency, so it's confusing. But anyways, so she was just like, don't go with him. Do not go with him. And they kept asking him to leave. And he would not leave.
All right, so we're just going to hear up until the end of this. Again, another abusive guy, two women trying to come together. We don't know what their pasts are. And you know what sucks is that when you're trying to get justice, someone will look at your past and then automatically they judge you and they don't want to help you. Christopher Gregor had a past, and we're going to hear about that again later. Dr. Grande will talk about that and how he's a spoiled brat. But these women, I don't know if Kara did, but Bree did, and they just weren't taken serious.
Leave. Finally, he left after my the son came forward and was like, you need to leave. So he finally leaves. I go into the bathroom. I get a phone call from him, and he tells me, like, now that we're officially over, I can tell you the truth. And I was like, the truth about what? And he tells me that he made up having multiple personality disorder, that he had never went to therapy, even though he had told me he'd been going to therapy for 9 months, even brought me to a place of the supposed therapist. Like, this is how committed he was to the lie and how much he wanted me to believe him. And that he literally just said all those things so he could keep raping me and keep hurting me.
Dang, trigger warning again, folks. I'm trying not to do that. Captain Obvious says, I heard that you have to set up your account to be willing to accept gift memberships. I never had to set anything up. Just make sure it's not turned off. Go into your settings, just make sure it's not turned off, and you're good to go. I never did that, and I get gifted memberships all the time. So, anyway, yeah, trigger warning for this, and listen to another just right up to here, and then we'll get into the case. Yeah, I can't edit or censor this stuff.
So after that, I went to the police. I filed the report. I got a rape kit done. I did everything the law says you are supposed to do.
Dang.
And when they did all that, they took custody of him. They arrested him. They gave me my car because the car was in my name because I purchased the car with my money and my credit. He drove the car because I don't drive due to medical condition. So when they gave me back.
Really, I don't want to go off on a tangent with other things, but I do want justice for Kara's son as well, and of course Corey. And you guys can go watch that. I dropped it in the chat, or you can email me. I pray the jurors see his evil too, but I'm going to show you why there could be something that they may not see it all the same way, and I don't like that the justice system works that way. They do work that way though, and they cross their T's and they dot their I's, and then they have to look at a law to make sure that little piece falls into the law. So even if they think something's wrong or they have a feeling about it being wrong, they can still say, no, Jay, your mods gave us a link to accept gifts last time. All right. Well, if one of you can drop a link to accept the gifted memberships, please do. Thank you, General Lamb. I'm going to go to the body cam footage. We're going to start catching up for the week, everybody. I appreciate you being here as people roll in. I hope everyone comes in and let's talk about this case. It's not just about Madeline Soto. It's not just about one person, not about just Sebastian. We're going to talk about Elijah Vu on Sunday. And for some reason, that one's kind of stuck in the water. People aren't really talking about it. There's not a lot of coverage. We got to remember it. We want justice for one child. It's got to be for all children. It doesn't matter what state you're in, folks. It doesn't matter you're in Florida, so this does this, or I'm in California. There should be a right way to justice for children and not have abuse. And we got to just think about that and not just think about somebody, oh, that kid appeals to me. So I'm going to, or this is, let's do something bigger together. All right. Not just for one person. If you do it for one person, you don't forget about the others. And I feel like that's what happens.
It's big. It's made of gas. It is Jupiter.
All right, folks, I'll tell you before I get started, this is the body cam footage of Christopher Gregor after Corey's passing. Okay, now I'm just trying to be gentle. I don't like to have to say trigger warnings, but true crime has that. Let's watch this together and I'll watch your comments in chat so we can talk.
Look, so guys, this is my mommy and your.
Welcome back to our special coverage of the Treadmill abuse murder trial. I'm Michael Ayala. A key moment played out inside that New Jersey courtroom today. Outside the presence of the jury, the prosecution played a body cam video of the defendant in Tennessee. This is on April 4th, 2021, just 2 days after 6-year-old Corey Micciolo died. Christopher Gregor was stopped by Alcoa Police Department. The prosecution claims that Gregor was fleeing New Jersey. He left right after he dropped his son off at the hospital. Here's some of that body cam video, which is hard to hear in some parts.
I mean, if he's shaking off the leaf, like his wallet's in his lap, he starts reaching somewhere else, and Adam's like, what are you doing?
All right, guys, I'm going to put this at normal speed just in case, and let me put normal speed in case we can hear it, and I don't know if subtitles are going to get in the way. I can try it. All right, let's see what happens if it's that way. You can read it, maybe, if it's possible.
Well, that's right, yeah. And he's like, puts the hands on the steering wheel, he's doing this and that. I'm like, you don't know, of course you don't know what's going on. What's the word dog says? There's plenty of dog hair in there. There's plenty of dog hair in there. Looks like it's at least a 15, I would think.
I've never heard that old for a search warrant.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, is he connected with a murder?
So now you can read it, folks. You can see Officer 1. It says, and then it says inaudible, and then you can read it. So if I lowered the static in the background a little, but you can actually, if you're not listening, or if you're just listening and not watching, you may want to, or go back and watch it after.
You know, there's evidence in here that needs to be, because he was mentioning something about his son died and some other stuff, some shots. Is he being investigated for child death? I mean, why would you be down here from New Jersey fixing it up? Like each house in airport all places. If she just flew from New Jersey, they're starting to make sense. And when it came out, I was with adamant that stuff that was on. I'm like, I'm right here. And then I looked, they didn't give it out until like 2 minutes after the fact.
How does it split?
Yeah. Yeah, usually, because I saw them let them get to the gas station or whatever. I'm like, well, I ain't seen it, so usually going to the airport, he's about to get the split. We're going up there on that, out the gun, moonshine business yesterday. Classic on the gun. Oh man, yeah, really? It was also I was reading that, I'm like, first I'm like, where is that?
Now it's really hard to hear what's going on, but Christopher was trying to flee, folks, and this is the body cam footage from that. So I'm doing the best I can here. I hope you guys haven't seen this, or if you have, you're watching with us. There's over 100 people in here. I appreciate that. Hit the like, and I'll keep playing this, okay?
Oh yeah, you got it busy. But then on the screen, they say I see like a pursuit on there. I'm like, what the? I see you said 220.
All right, we'll take a break here. When we come back, we aren't done with the police body cam of the defendant in Tennessee. See the rest of his encounter with police, just 2 days.
All right, and this gives you a good idea of what's happening, what happened in court to catch you up in case you missed this. Thank you all for being here, and I hope you get gifted a membership if you don't have one. So thank you all.
After his son died.
Tonight on Closing Arguments, the killer or cover-up murder trial. As more details emerge surrounding Karen Reed and the murder of John O'Keefe, our experts break down today's testimony and the impact it could be having on this jury. Plus, the Doomsday Prophet murder trial moves forward in an Idaho courtroom. Our think tank weighs in as Chad Daybell faces the death penalty.
Closing Arguments with Vinny Politan, tonight at 8/7 Central, only on Court TV.
And happy. Corey was 6 on April 2nd, 2021, when his father murdered him. His father is this defendant, Christopher Gregor. This defendant is guilty of abuse and murder because healthy 6-year-olds don't just die during the course of a business day, and neither did Corey Micciolo.
2 days after his 6-year-old son, Corey Micciolo, died, Christopher Gregor was found in Alcoa, Tennessee. Well, the prosecution claims that he was fleeing New Jersey. The body cam of Gregor being pulled over by police was shown in court today outside the presence of the jury. I want to show you more of that.
So this is really cool to see it outside the presence of the jury, but it also, I hope it made it to the jury. And I'm not sure because I'm watching this with you as we go. If you're watching this, please let me know in chat if the jury actually saw some of this, all of this, or none of this. I'm watching this part. I haven't seen it yet with you. So let me know. And Davey, what's up? We always miss you. We're watching body cam footage right now, and I'm trying not to be too loud. All right, let's go.
Tape now, and it's just a warning. It is hard to hear at some points.
Thank you.
Like I said, we've had 2 things that don't add up. And that's usually where I put my wallet. And I didn't realize that it was there. I played football, so I might have CTE shirts that I lost. I played outside linebacker. T2 schools, NAIA, which is kind of like T2, Lakeland, Florida, Southeastern University, which is like really Christian school. But yeah, I mean, playing against the best. I played with it. Well, like I said, when I first got out of the car and you guys.
Okay, so he's trying to explain his way out of a situation. If you haven't seen it, you can tell, you can look at him and he's this guy that you would look at, he's a teacher and you wouldn't think that he did any of this or he was a teacher before, whatever. We'll talk about his background after. So, sorry about the sound again, but this is good video to see and who this man is and what he was doing. This is the court seeing the body cam of Gregor being stopped by the police in Tennessee after Corey passed. And I think he was going to run to maybe Mexico.
I just made sure that, make sure you didn't have like grenade stuff in your pants. Exactly. But, if that was you, I apologize because I'm like, but I said, I don't mind if you guys search my people at all. Like, there's nothing I'm hiding. I'm really not. We'll get to that very soon, man. We're the same type and trying to figure everything out while we're doing all this, so. Sure. I imagine that you guys would know if there was a warrant associated with that. I'm like, New Jersey is ran by Democrats. So we don't really communicate very well. You and me both. But I don't know. Like, this is probably gonna be a little freaked out, Like, I was one of the activities for that last month. I don't
And that is why the title is called Will the Jury See It Our Way? KJ says the prosecution team is outstanding. No, I don't think so. The prosecution wanted to play the whole thing because the defense wanted to cherry pick it. It's what's being said good about Gregor. Thank you. So, of course, it's going to be that way. Will the jury see it the way we do? Because they don't see everything we see, and there's bits and pieces that they don't see. Okay, the jury did see the body cam footage, and I hope they saw all of it, and they knew the background and the context, and the foundation was laid properly. That's very important. Background. This background drives me nuts, folks. I want to show you the body cam footage, but it drives me nuts to have to listen to this, and I apologize. But I also want you to hear what they're saying if you can. So we don't have too much longer of this. There's so much more to get into.
He didn't have any bruising on his head. I knew I got home, and I knew something was wrong with my gut, but I just thought she had no way for everything that needed to see. And I should have took the work this way. There's a lot of me things like, it's partially my fault in the sense that if they truly did something, when you guys should like the drug addict, like, would still be alive. If I never go back to Baltimore to figure this out. Like, that's been going through my head this whole time. They took me marijuana in my people before, and I got arrested for that in New Jersey. They tested marijuana, and I lost my license. I don't know.
All right, so this was played by the state outside the presence of the jury to proffer whether.
Perfect. So you can see we're going to lay down the groundwork. So if you don't know about this case or you haven't seen it, we're watching it together now. He's telling us it was played outside of the jury, which that happened with the parents as well. They wanted to bring the parents in, and they did, and they had to go outside of the jury first. So is the jury going to see it the way we do, everybody? I can't wait until the body cam's over so I don't have to hear the static, and I'm sorry. All right, Davey, what you missed also was, yeah, maybe he's a sadist. Deception Detective said in the chat, would we like to, he said, should I, something about, should I cover him as a sadist? So try to get Deception Detective to do a video on Christopher Gregor, please. I know you're in the forum all the time.
They could present it to the jury. And in the end, the judge ruled that the body cam would not be entered into evidence. He said there was too much prejudicial information contained in it and lots of hearsay from the police officers. All right, still with us to discuss, Deputy Public Defender for Los Angeles County, Philip Dubé. Philip, you know, this flight issue was a bad one for the defendant as well. It gets bad to worse. You got the video on the treadmill. And I'm not even sure if this isn't worse. The fact that once the information that his son has died, he basically leaves the hospital. This comes out, we saw it earlier, on the cross of the father by the state, that he leaves Corey alone in the hospital and goes on the run. And he's out there for 2 days. Eventually he comes back. He's convinced by the grandfather and the grandmom to come back, but it just looks terrible for him.
Yeah, of course it does. And frankly, I can probably count on one finger how many judges would have excluded that video, frankly. He was lucky that the judge had some compassion and excluded it. And it probably was prejudicial. But if we're honest, all evidence is prejudicial. Nothing really helps a defendant when you have to fight it. But the judge in the end did him a favor. But ultimately, I think he has a much steeper hill to climb, if you will. I think in order for him to get past everything that has been introduced against him, he's going to have to show that the forensics were off. He is going to have to show that this child died of something else other than physical abuse. And they need to bring that expert in to testify about the effects of sepsis on the human body and what effects it could have on the skin, whether or not it would cause the appearance of bruises, redness, that type of thing, where a pathologist or even a pediatrician could mistake those outward symptoms for something more nefarious. Otherwise, I don't see any way out for him, and we'll see what they've got. I don't know which expert they're putting on, but that's all he's got.
And that's what everybody's saying. They're saying it's pretty much open and shut, but I see a lot of things in this case that have problems with the timeline, and when one person testifies and then the next person says something different, the complete same thing, and the as much as I don't like the defense team, the guy's a bully as well. So sometimes, like John Pryor and Chad Daybell case, that carries a lot of weight to be a bully, especially in the courtroom.
Right now.
Yeah, you know who they're putting on? They're putting on Dr. Michael Baden. That's who they're calling. Yeah. So he's what do you call him? A celebrity forensic pathologist. We've seen him in a number of high-profile cases. Do witnesses?
Yes, he is a celebrity, and I hope that he does justice for Corey. I'm glad this case is getting as much coverage as it is, because there's a lot of lessons to be learned in this case. It's not all about this. Just think of it as being a partial under a big umbrella of all of these cases happening, and it doesn't matter what state it's in, it's happening.
Cases like that actually move the needle. I've seen tons of these in cases, I'm sure you have as well. When you have him pitted against the state, the guy who comes in, and it's actually going to shape up to be a pretty good battle of the experts, because that's the expert that state's going to call.
It is, and we're going to go over the text messages and his internet searches. This guy.
All coming up next week. We're going to hear from Dr. Michael Baden, so they're going to come one right after the other. How does that work?
Well, as a practical matter, the general public doesn't know who forensic pathologists are. No matter how published they are, how many trials they've testified at, in the end, they're just expert physicians, if you will. In this particular case, they're doctors of forensic pathology and the study of disease. The practical reality of it is they are not people who come down the red carpet like music artists, actors, and other celebrities. People perhaps in the true crime world might be familiar with him because he does make a lot of appearances on national news, certainly in celebrity trials and media cases. But otherwise, I think the general public and certainly this jury may never even heard of him.
Christopher Gregor, does he have to take the stand now? All that we've heard, all the chips are against him. I mean, at some point, you've got to make a decision. What do you think?
Yep.
Yes, it can't get any worse. He has got to get on the stand and say that, yes, he may have had an autocratic coaching style in how he raised the child. And in hindsight, he wishes he would have done it differently. But as we all know, parents don't come with instructions. But he has got to look those jurors in the eye and tell them he never intended to end the kid's life.
Yeah, and now they're playing the video, so trigger warning. Again, one person can say, man, I do that with my kids. What's wrong with pushing them hard for their goals or whatever? So one juror can see it different, and that's all it takes. So let's put good vibes, say a prayer for Corey. And again, this video is playing. So if you don't want to see it, please don't.
May have been a little bit of horseplay and roughhousing in his mind, but that there was never an intent to end the child's life.
Yeah, it's the only shot he's got. All right, Philip DeBay, thank you so much for taking out the time to be with us tonight. Really appreciate it.
All right. Stop this wherever it's going to the next one. And yeah, look, another case. Woman's arrest on charges she unalived her 4-year-old son. These never end. These cases never end, folks. And Captain Obvious, surprised he didn't accidentally factory reset his phone like Stephen Stearns. Oh my God, I have so much more too so much more on Stephen Stearns in that case. I almost want to come on here after and do it just for a little while, talk with you guys about that. Yeah, there's pushing, there's abuse, and the difference is pretty clear. I agree with that. And yeah, let's stop sharing this so we can find the next clips for you. I want to give you an overview of basically what's been happening for the last week. And then after that, I want to get a little more into the text messages. All right, so let's go and go to the 5 big pieces that are pretty damaging against him. But again, what does the defense say? Does Christopher go on the stand if he... Hold on, I don't know if I shared it. 1 second. And I saw your comment, Bree, as I get this going. I should have used better body cam footage, but I just don't have enough time, everybody. Secret.
Fresh scratches. They were located below the belly button, above the pubic bone, in the center of his body. By superficial, I mean they looked, I called them fresh because you could see that they hadn't formed a scab. There was like a little bit of moistness to them.
It has not been easy listening to the evidence presented in the murder trial of Christopher Gregor, and for the defendant, it may lead to his conviction. We're going to discuss some damaging evidence against the accused child abuser and killer.
All right, so get ready for this. This is going to give you a recap of everything that's been going on. And then I do want to dig deeper. They're going to play a little bit of clip of the internet searches, but his text messages or his searches on his phone and his text messages, just like, I want the jury to just see those and say, man, this guy, that with the treadmill, it's disturbing.
Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Hey everybody, this is a Law and Crime legal alert. Google Incognito tracked users' browsing data without...
You like how he uses that, and then we get into Christopher Gregor's searches in his history. That's interesting. No, we're not going to do incognito.
2-year-old son, Corey Micciolo, died back in April of 2021. Happened after Gregor brought his son to the emergency room at Southern Ocean Medical Center in Stafford Township, carried his limp body. There's even surveillance footage where you see him carrying Corey. Reported that Corey was sleepy, that he had thrown up, and Corey died at the hospital. Now, why is Gregor responsible? What does the evidence show? That's what we're going to get into. But I want to warn you right now, as we talk about this, it is never easy hearing about the death of a young child. This is some of the worst evidence you can see, you can hear about. These are the worst cases to cover. Having said that, what we're about to talk about, this evidence is very important. You need to hear what the prosecution has and what the jury will consider. So with that in mind, although this will be not easy in any stretch of the imagination to listen to, let's get into it and we'll discuss it. Now, some of the most...
So you heard that now. If you don't want to listen to this again, or you're already watching it, just trigger warning. You can't go around this case without having to hear these things.
Damning evidence came from the testimony of forensic pathologist Dr. Thomas Andrew.
And
do you have an opinion after you reviewed all of this material in regard to the decedent's cause of death?
Yes.
And can you tell the jurors what that opinion is?
But Corey died of blunt impact injuries of the chest and abdomen with laceration of the heart, left pulmonary contusion, and laceration and contusion of the liver.
After reviewing the materials in this case, did you formulate an opinion as to the decedent's manner of death?
I did.
And can you tell the jurors what your opinion is?
Corey's manner of death is homicide Dr. Ragasa saw and documented several abnormalities. There was a large contusion of.
All right. So homicide, if it's homicide, it means it wasn't sepsis. Okay. So that's where we're going to start the battle of the wars with the defense. It was homicide is the manner. That can't be sepsis, folks.
One of Corey's lungs, I believe it was the left lung. Examination of Corey's heart externally didn't show anything, but on the internal examination of the heart, after the heart was opened to reveal the chambers of the heart, a laceration or tear in the tissue was revealed on the right side where the liver lives. There were 2 injuries that he documented. There was a laceration or tear in the liver tissue on the right edge, the right lateral aspect of the liver, and there was also a contusion or bleeding underneath the capsule of the liver on the front edge of the liver. In assessing the potential for child abuse, it's not so much that contusions are life-threatening in and of themselves, but it's the pattern and distribution of injuries and also the presence of injuries of varying ages that suggest that a child has been mistreated. And Corey had contusions over a wide area of his body of varying ages, from under his chin, his head, his trunk, his extremities. There was one fairly large one just on the left side of his chest that looked to be fairly large, and that had been previously assessed. Good. And particularly the presence of contusions on the back without a pretty clear-cut explanation it's not diagnostic of abuse, but it's very suggestive of abuse, certainly given the company that it's keeping. So my concern was not so much with the severity of the bruising, but the pattern and distribution of the bruising as being suggestive of child abuse.
And there you have it. The crux of the prosecution's argument, Corey Micciolo was abused. A healthy boy that should not have died all of a sudden. Dr. Andrew testified that Corey died from an acute traumatic injury hours before his death. He was in Gregor's care when he was rushed to the ER. Now, on cross-examination, when the defense had an opportunity to question Dr. Andrew, they tried to argue that he changed his opinion on the time frame of that injury based on faulty information, faulty testimony, faulty accounts, things that were not the most reliable, which makes his analysis, his conclusion, maybe not the most reliable.
And that's the one thing that happens in these cases when you have to get technical, and then there's a technicality of check the yes and no box. I wish it wasn't like that. Thank you, Maya. You'll be at 10,000 before the weekend's over. Remember, I called it. I'll remember that. And we're working on hopefully getting a merch store, at least with the day one. So let's keep going. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. This is not for the faint of heart.
As well. But going back to this alleged abuse, an example of what we're talking about is the infamous treadmill video. If I talk about the Christopher Gregor case, most people will remember this, unfortunately. Why? This is an incredibly damaging piece of evidence in this case. Surveillance footage was presented that shows video from the gym at Gregor's apartment complex back on March 20th, 2021. The video purportedly shows Gregor forcing Corey to run on this treadmill at fast speeds, Corey continually falling off of it. Gregor allegedly forcing Corey back onto the treadmill. It even appears.
Again, if you haven't seen this, just trigger warning all across the board. You can't get away from this portion of it. But he didn't pass away until later. So that's what they're trying to do. I think he's going to get guilty. But that is just my, again, alleged. He's innocent until proven guilty. Thank you, Carrie Summers. Let me know if you guys want me to come back on for a little bit later and talk about Madeline Soto and some things that have come out and just a general discussion. I know everybody's just wanting to get it out, and I understand. I want to get it out with you. Thank you again. Let's keep going.
Appears that he possibly bites the top of the boy's head. It is crazy. It is a disturbing thing to watch. Something that I know will be ingrained in many people's minds. I have to imagine it's going to be ingrained in the jury's mind. And Gregor is actually specifically charged with that incident. To be clear about that, he's charged with child endangerment. It's because of that treadmill incident. It's such bad evidence of not only that crime, but also, as prosecutors would argue, a symptom of ongoing abuse that may have contributed to Corey's death. It's so bad that Gregor's defense had to acknowledge it in their opening statement.
At some point, you're going to see Christopher go over to that treadmill and speed it up. And you're going to see Corey fall. And you're going to see him pick that boy up 6 times. And
this is how ridiculous his defense is, that this bully comes in all red-faced, acting like there's no problem with him doing that. Christopher Gregor doing that to his son. Just, he did that, but that didn't correlate with him passing.
6 times. Put him back on the treadmill. And I'm going to tell you right now, you're not going to like him. And I don't care.
And we don't
like him. When
we
you
don't
see
like
that
you.
video, you're going to be horrified. You're going to be mortified. But I'm telling you right now that the evidence you're going to see of Corey's death had absolutely nothing to do with that treadmill.
By the way, the timing of that treadmill incident is so important. Listen to Kim Peace. This is Corey's first grade teacher. This really stood out. She noticed something was off. She noticed something was wrong about Corey. So listen to what she observed with respect to Corey and what the defendant allegedly told her.
Do you recall seeing the mark on his forehead, the abrasion, on March 19th before the weekend on Corey?
No.
The first time you saw it was when you returned on the 23rd.
Exactly.
When you saw the injury to Corey, did you try to talk to Corey about what had happened to him?
I did.
What was Corey's demeanor during the conversation that you had with him?
Just kind of like quiet, would just answer one word. I noticed him with long sleeves often, in those weird months in September, October, where, we all got our new school clothes, but they're winter clothes. So like he always had long sleeves on.
Could you tell me specifically what the message said?
Sure, I'll read it.
Yes, please.
Hey, I just found out Corey's other side of the family had left the state and saw him this weekend after being at a mass gathering, so he will not be at school this week. Also, the week following spring break, he will not be there because he will be on vacation with me in Key West. In order to do the virtual learning, is there anything we need other than logging onto Google Classroom?
Is that the entirety of the message?
Yes.
Unbelievable, folks. We just hit 111, and that's not what's unbelievable. Unbelievable that he abused him and then sent that message that he's going to be gone. 111, say a prayer for Corey. Let's hope that we get justice. Karen, thank you so much for gifting 5 memberships, everybody, to everybody. What a beautiful thing. Thank you. We appreciate it, to all the new members that are going to happen. Now let's listen to this.
So with all that going on with the treadmill and all this, she gets that message from the defendant that Corey wasn't going to be in school, that they were taking him on vacation. It is strange timing after that treadmill incident. The long sleeves, to cover up bruises, maybe. That's an assumption you have to make here. Now, again, prosecutors are saying Corey was a victim of his father's abuse. That's the theme here. And moving on to some more damaging evidence, I want to focus on injuries and whether Corey died from something else. Now I want to talk about the testimony of Dr. Yi Ong. So he is the doctor who evaluated Corey on April 1st, 2021 in an emergency room. This is the day before Corey died. Corey's mother brought him to get checked out.
And can you tell the jury what Corey's demeanor was when you observed him?
He was very scary, little bit scary boy, and he afraid to answer my questions.
Did you conduct a physical examination of Corey while at the emergency room at Jersey Shore?
Yes, I did. I did from head to toe examination, and then we marked down all the bruises, scratches in the diagram. I put everything in my chart.
Now, how were Corey's vital signs?
His vital signs are stable, and I'm not concerned when he arrived because of the vital signs are stable. We saw some bruises on the head, some bruises on the body, and some bruises on the back and legs. And neurologically, we do the cranial nerve examination, basically neurologically intact. He has no neurological deficit. He is active, alert, and not in distress. And any signs of failure and chest examination within the normal limit, I did not hear any respiratory distress, wheezing, murmurs, hypoxia. He has nothing. And bar abdominal examination, abdomen is soft, no signs of acute abdomen. That means no tenderness, no pain, and no heart inconsistency by palpations. And physical genital examination within the normal limit. All 4 limbs examinations, motor is intact, sensory is intact, saw only bruises, scratches.
So according to this doctor, Corey has bruising. He is scared, but his vital signs were normal. Nothing to indicate on the outset that he's about to die suddenly out of nowhere. No infection, which is important because Gregor's defense has seemed to suggest that this young boy possibly died from a complication of sepsis. But Corey was discharged that night. His mom brought him to Gregor the following afternoon, and he ends up dying. Natural question, did Gregor do something to Corey in that time? Or, as the defense suggests, did the boy's mother have something to do with that? And by the way, under cross-examination, the defense seemed to suggest that Dr. Ong's calculations were off. Maybe he didn't review all of the proper medical records. In other words, did we really understand what was going on with Corey? Did we get a full perspective on Corey? But I'll tell you what, when I talk about damaging pieces of evidence in this case, I have to talk to you about probably one of the worst pieces of evidence for Christopher Gregor. Actually, I was on air on the Law and Crime Network hosting when I saw this go down live. This is when Sergeant Raymond Cole's computer.
Yeah, this is awesome when that happens, when we're live and something comes in and we can let everybody know while it's happening. So if you haven't seen this, now you can watch it with us and the crime crew. And I hope to come back on here tonight and talk to you. I have something really important to tell you before we start the Madeline Soto case. I just want to get it off my chest and let you guys know a little bit about some things in Florida going down and that we should take into consideration before we start bashing people, whatever. Anyway, let's talk about this case. And this applies to every case.
Computer forensic examiner took the stand, and he went through Gregor's purported search history. Now, remember, the treadmill incident is March 20th, 2021, and Corey dies on April 2nd, 2021.
So the first hit in the Safari web browser on this was a search conducted on March 25th, 2021 at 9:31 p.m. The body of the search states, will red marks turn into bruises?
And could you please move on to the next one?
Sure. The next search is on April 1st, 2021 at 8:43:36 p.m. The search was Neptune non-emergency police.
The next one.
Next search is on April 1st, 2021 at 8:49:05 p.m. The search was Jersey Shore Medical Center.
Please move on to the next one.
The next one is a web history on April 2nd, 2021 at 3:08:37 p.m. The search was lost consciousness, sleepy and nauseous - Google search.
Please move on to the next one.
Next entry is April 2nd, 2021 at 6:10:22 p.m. The search was, can your phone be tracked in airplane mode?
The next one.
The next search was for April 2nd, 2021 at 6:10:35 p.m. for, can my car be tracked?
The next one.
Next search was for April 3rd, 2021 at 3:55:40 p.m. The search is, could internal bleeding raise your blood sugar levels?
Please move on to the next one.
The next search is on April 3rd, 2021.
You hear that? What Google, his searches were? I mean, and then he ran everybody. Now, again, you can't just say guilty. You have to listen to everything, but crazy.
At 3:56:55 p.m. The search is, how does gastrointestinal bleeding happen?
Is there a next one?
There is.
Could you please tell us what it is?
Next search was on April 4th, 2021 at 9:58:03 a.m. The search was, there was a murder determined from an autopsy. How long to file charges?
Is there another one?
The last one is on April 4th, 2021 at 10:21:16 a.m. The search was, how long after an autopsy to file charges get filed?
Now, the searches from before Corey's death attributed to Gregor are arguably indicative of the defendant concerned about bruises and how they will look on Corey and looking up Corey's symptoms. But then the searches on the day of and after his death seem to all be concerned about if he's going to get in trouble. No, I think that's the argument that the prosecution can make. The argument would be, why is he so worried about criminal charges, a phone being tracked, his car being tracked, or a car being tracked? We call that in the law evidence of consciousness of guilt. You know you did something bad. You're worried about the consequences. And I forgot to mention that Gregor allegedly left the hospital as Corey died, drove off and left. So that certainly looks bad for the defendant. But that is not all.
Could you please describe?
And we're going to hear more. I wonder if Jennifer Soto has consciousness of guilt or guilty knowledge, everybody. I can't stop thinking about that case. It's so close to all of these cases and to this case and to Elijah Vu and everybody else's. Oh, all right, let's listen.
What the first task was and what you did.
Sure. The first thing they proposed to me was to identify if conversations between Christopher Gregor and Brianna Micciolo were deleted from Christopher Gregor's iPhone. If messages were deleted, please identify when they were deleted.
What did you do with regard to that?
So essentially, I opened up Ms. Micciolo's phone extraction. I opened up Mr. Gregor's phone extraction. Mr. Gregor's phone extraction, there were 0 text messages with Ms. Micciolo. On Ms. Micciolo's phone extraction, there were 3,466 text messages saved with a conversation with Mr. Gregor. That was the first indicator that something was deleted from Mr. Gregor's phone. I looked at the message retention settings within Mr. Gregor's iPhone and saw the value for message retention duration on his phone was set to forever, as in messages would not be deleted unless a user did it themselves.
Yeah, looks pretty bad that he allegedly deleted search history entries, over 3,000 messages between him and Corey's mom. Defense would try to pinpoint, we don't know when these were deleted, how they were deleted, why they were deleted. But overall, that is a good sampling, I think, of some of the evidence, along with some context put forward by the defense, some of the more damaging pieces of evidence against Christopher Gregor. We're going to continue to monitor this case for you here at Law and Crime. That's all we have for you here on Sidebar. Everybody, thank you so much for joining.
Thanks, Sidebar. We appreciate it. We get a good idea of a lot of things going on. There's so many more things going on, and I want to play the next thing that we did. I'm going to lower this because I couldn't hear at all. All right, so cell phone pings. That's what I wanted to play for you next. I thought that was important, and it was harder to find than typical. So let's take a look. Cell phone pings. It's not the text messages. Let's see. Make sure it's not the same thing. I was trying to go through this as much as I could. It's a law and crime, but it's a little bit. So cell phone location revealed by computer forensic expert. And I don't know if you guys heard this one, but to me, it's important. So let's see what y'all think. Plus, I like spending time with you all.
But then both Gregor and Corey's mother, Brianna Micciolo, had custodial issues. So 20 months leading up to Corey's death, Brianna had filed reports of child abuse with the Child Welfare Bureau. And the story goes like this. Corey's taken to the hospital by the defendant on April 2nd, 2021. He wakes up from a nap. He's experiencing nausea, shortness of breath, slurring his words. Remember, he's a 6-year-old kid. During the CT scan at the hospital, he suffers a seizure and ultimately dies. Now, the defendant is charged with first-degree murder and endangering the welfare of a child. If convicted, he's looking at the possibility of life in prison. Now, due to some scheduling conflicts, and this happens occasionally, some witnesses need to be called out of order. So the prosecution has not rested, but the defense has called a couple of their witnesses to squeeze them in before the prosecution goes back to their case in chief. So yesterday, Sergeant Raymond Coles was on the stand. Let's listen to what he has to say regarding the defendant's phone location days before Corey's death. This is, again, direct by the defense following.
Sorry about that. I don't know why I was muted, but anyway, it's important to hear the side of the defense so you could see how they spin it and what you think the jurors might think. So we'll play this for a few.
Crossed by the prosecution.
Can you tell us between the second and the third where it was located?
I can.
Okay, where was it?
So, I'm second, the phone's seen leaving New Jersey. I believe it goes into Pennsylvania, it starts traveling southwest, and it makes it to about the approximate southwest corner of Arkansas, about 45 minutes from the Texas border.
Okay, and that was the second to the third, am I right?
That's, it's second and third.
Second and third?
Yes.
Okay. Now, do you have the ability, if I had asked you, for the third and the fourth?
I do.
Okay, and did you actually look at that last night?
I did.
Okay. And did you, when you looked at it, did you make any observations as to the location of the cell phone between the third and the fourth?
I did.
Okay, and what was that?
Sure. So the cell phone can be seen turning around at approximately 2:45. You can see it getting onto the off-ramp. I believe it was Highway 371 and Route 30 in Arkansas. You see it get on the off-ramp, go around, and start going northeast from that point. And to put Arkansas in perspective, it's about 4 hours to go from the southwest corner of Arkansas to the northeast corner where the phone went. So, or say from Memphis, Tennessee, which is the southwest corner of Tennessee, to Arcana, Texas, which is the northeast corner of Texas, where it hits the Arkansas border, is approximately 4 hours. So the device was 45 minutes approximately from the Texas border. It can be seen going back towards Memphis at that point. It arrived in Memphis, Tennessee at approximately 5:50 p.m. The phone can continue to be tracked until it gets to about Nashville area around 9 p.m. It looks like Mr. Gregor gets off in Nashville for maybe 15, 20 minutes. As the device continues to move, he just gets off the main highway, at which point he gets back on the main highway and then stops at approximately, I believe it was 9:50 p.m. He stops on the eastern side of Nashville, past the airport, for approximately 1 hour and 15 minutes. From that point, he then drives from that section to Quality Inn Motel in Gordonsville, Tennessee, and stops there at around 11:45 at night.
And after that, you shoot again?
Sure. And then on the 4th, it picks up. He leaves the motel or Quality Inn Hotel at approximately 9:45 a.m. and arrives at the airport in Alcoa, Tennessee at approximately 11:15.
So he effectively does a U-turn in Texarkana, Arkansas, and heads back towards the northeast.
He does.
Do you know where Alcoa, Tennessee is?
Just from the map in reference to this case.
Okay. And would you say that Alcoa, Tennessee is much closer to New Jersey than Texarkana, Arkansas?
It is closer to New Jersey than Texarkana.
And would that be consistent with the phone traveling northeast towards the state of New Jersey?
It would be.
Sergeant Coles, so based upon your prior testimony and the questions you were asked on direction.
So whoever's new to this case, we appreciate you being here. If you don't know the backstory, you can go back, or you can just type in treadmill murder and probably find it on 10 other stations. We appreciate you coming in and checking out. This is the treadmill murder, and Christopher Gregor took Corey Micciolo's life after repeatedly being accused of abusing him the day before. Child Protective Custody was they were alarmed, and Bree Micciolo filed for an emergency I can't even think of the words right now, but emergency custody, and it was denied after seeing the treadmill video. So we're doing the court details right now. We appreciate you for stopping in, and whoever didn't know the case and you're here anyway, we love you too.
Just now on your map, from about 5:20 p.m. on April 2nd, 2021 until 2:19 p.m. on April 3rd, 2021, that phone and that defendant were traveling away from Southern Ocean Medical Center.
That's correct.
And so about 24 hours, that phone is going away
That's
from
correct.
Southern Ocean Medical Center. Okay. And in that period of time, that defendant and his phone never made any attempts to turn around and come back to Southern Ocean Medical Center in this area, right?
It did not.
And during that entire time, that phone was in airplane mode, correct?
Briefly, maybe around like 5:20 came out of airplane mode, but from like 6:20ish and on, it was in airplane mode until it was taken out.
And isn't it true that 25 minutes prior to the defendant turning around to come back to New Jersey, he's on the phone with his father?
He was.
And he actually turned around to come back while he was on the phone with his father.
That's correct.
Never before that.
Correct.
Now, at that point, he's 45 minutes from the Texarkana border in Texas, right?
Yes.
And then when he turns around, he makes a stop off in the Nashville area that night because he's in the area.
Briefly to stop for dinner, yes. Or gas, or I'm not sure what he stopped for, but he stopped on the eastern side of the
Okay, again, we're a little bit through the looking glass here because this is the cross-examination by the prosecution, a defense witness on the stand out of order. So now let's listen to testimony from Officer Angel Roman, who performed a welfare check on Corey Micciolo. This occurred.
Yeah, this is important to hear the welfare check and what's going on and how many times that it was reported, and still we're here today.
On March 28th, 2021. This is 8 days after the treadmill incidents and 5 days before he died.
During this welfare check, did you have an opportunity to speak to Christopher Gregor and his son Corey?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And during that welfare check, did you see any bruising? Did you see any bruising to Corey?
Yes.
Okay, and describe for us what you saw, please.
Saw the bruising on his chest, his hip, legs, arms, and I believe there was an abrasion above his eyebrow.
So
now,
brutal.
After you spoke with Corey and Christopher Gregor, did you do anything else with respect to that welfare check?
Yes, we contacted DCPMP. I don't.
As per protocol?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and did you inform them, did you give them any information?
Yes, which wasn't the first time.
Okay, so had you seen Christopher and Corey ever prior to that day in that area?
In Barnegat Township?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, and where had you seen them?
Barnegat High School football field.
Okay, and what did you see them doing on that Barnegat football field?
The defendant and Corey throwing passes.
At the high school football field.
Okay, when you saw this, where were you located?
So the officer actually saw him interacting with his son. He did this all the time, interacted with his son, but he was also abusing him at the same time. So that's basically his defense at this point. This is important. When I heard this, I was like, wow, he even saw him. I mean, they probably saw him all the time with him doing sports, and hitting him, and a lot of people saw it and they reported it. So the see something, say something doesn't always work, even though we should do it.
My patrol vehicle.
Okay. And do you remember the time that you saw this happen?
I don't recall exactly the time frame, but possibly a couple weeks to a month prior.
Before Corey passed?
Prior to my incident of doing the welfare check.
Okay, so you saw this a few weeks prior to that, and you were in your patrol car when you were able to see this?
Yes.
And you didn't stop at that point, correct?
No.
Okay. And from your vantage point, you didn't see Corey getting hurt, correct?
I think I saw him dive for a pass, but not specifically appearing hurt after diving for that pass.
Okay, thank you, Judge. No further.
So Officer Roman doing a welfare check sees the bruises on the kid's forehead. We know that was the result of the treadmill incident. So Catherine Lizardo is here, Mike Corbatics. Catherine, I got to get two-parter for you. So if you object as compound.
I always love hearing what other people say that are in law enforcement or judges or anybody that has criminal background, especially lawyers, defense attorneys. I love their spin on what happens. I'll get the charges right now if someone didn't already drop in chat. Child endangerment for sure. But yeah, let's listen to what they have to say. I love their feedback.
I would sustain that. First question is it odd for a jury when they throw a defense witness in the middle of the case before the end of the prosecution's case? And now, having said that, what do we need to know about the road work, the travels of the defendant after the fact? How important is that?
Well, in terms of the first question, yes, it's very odd for the jury when witnesses or even how the defense or the prosecution ask questions, because now they're confused. Even for me, I had to make sure to remember that what I was listening to was the direct examination by the defense. So this is supposed to be a witness in support of the defendant. Unfortunately, this leads me to my response to your second question, which is it's important what that witness was saying, the sergeant was saying about where his cell phone was, because your son just died and your first instinct is to drive away from your son who just passed away. The defense might be arguing that he's so emotionally distraught that he just kept on driving, but that as a mom, that is not generally what a reasonable person would do as a parent. But to stay with their child and grieve with that child. Plus, his phone was on airplane mode. That always raises suspicion, as we know with all of the other cases we talked to, and he was talking with his father on the phone. That's why he turned back. So we'll hear from the father soon.
You know, Mike, we heard most of that in the context of a defense witness talking about what could be argued consciousness of guilt, or as Catherine suggested, maybe that's just how he.
I love the consciousness of guilt. It's always, it plays a big role. It doesn't directly get you convicted, but consciousness of guilt is definitely a big deal. And when I hear this, it correlates to me with Jennifer Soto. Everything does right now. And I can't wait until she's arrested for something. I got a long email today from somebody saying that she won't be, and she's going to be the state's witness and so forth and so forth. Everybody's opinion is welcome, and alleged is what we do until convicted, folks.
Reacted, but in her mind, not reasonable. What do you think?
I think that's such a not solid piece of evidence because, as was just pointed out, it's open to interpretation to each juror. And the important thing is you've got to emphasize to jurors about, I always believe this, is that you don't have to follow a script. One of the things could be, yeah, every other person may have stayed at the hospital, but it was just pointed out that he could have just had a breakdown and said, I've got to get out of here, which somebody could understand. And you can't use as a juror what you think would happen. You have to look at the facts of how somebody else acted. That's where your judgment comes in.
Yeah, and that's the dream scenario, right? Because we know, jurors are going to bring their own into the mix. But I think it is an interesting question. How would you react? And did this guy do something the jury felt was reasonable? Okay, we're going to take a quick break here. Hey, I messed up earlier. I'm sorry. By the way, when Sherry was here, remember Sherry Botwin? She's the LCSW. Also an author, newly released book titled Stolen Childhoods, Thriving After.
Thank you for explaining that here. That was important to me. Again, the video is titled here, Will the Jury See It Our Way? So that's the overall theme of today, that plus updates. And I wanted to show you the body cam. It didn't show a lot, but it also just gives you an idea of what we see, what we don't see, how the court systems work. If you're not familiar, there's a lot of people that aren't, and they're just like, oh, they're guilty. And this doesn't work that way. I wish they did. One thing to have opinion, and another length to write emails to channel owners. Yeah, that happens. I'm getting a lot of that. You wouldn't believe I wish I could tell you. I started this channel because I love, I'm just a true crime person, a true crime addict, a true crime junkie, whatever you want to call it. I started the channel and oh my goodness, people are just crazy. The stuff that I'm getting is like, hey, I'm open for interpretation, and that's fine that you want to defend Jennifer Soto for some reason, but I don't. And it's just really weird. I hope you guys are reading some of the comments. Let me find this. Yeah, I hope you're reading some of the comments in the Jennifer Soto videos because they're very interesting. Now, I want to show, let's see what we did here. I want to play Dr. Grande, which calls him, what does he call him? He calls him a man baby. So if you haven't heard this, let's watch it together. But I also want Deception Detective. If you watch this, I want you to come and do a sadist one because I played Dr. G Explains and now Dr. Grande and the analysis. And we want DD.
Patreon in the description for this video. First, I'll look at the background of this case, move to the timeline of the crime, then offer my analysis. Christopher Gregor was born on May 21, 1992, and lived in the state of New Jersey. He attended Monroe Township High School, where he was an all-state defensive lineman. After graduating, he briefly attended a university in Middletown, Connecticut. In November 2010, Christopher was arrested for allegedly stealing from a woman's room in a dormitory and attacking 2 male students who tried to stop him during his escape. He allegedly used his fists and elbows in the attack. In 2013, Christopher started working as a marketing intern in Florida. After that, he was a sales associate. In 2016, he earned a bachelor's degree in psychology from a different college and started working as a real estate agent in New Jersey.
All right, now you're filling in the blanks of who he was as a person or what he did, I should. Sorry, you can hear my daughter in the background. She's gaming right now, like at the height of her. Anyway, all right, let's listen to this. Sorry to interrupt. You know how that goes. All right.
In June 2017, Christopher started working as a math teacher in Baltimore, Maryland. Between August 2017 and April 2018, he was charged with a number of offenses, including assault, robbery, and destruction of public property. Starting in February 2018, Christopher worked as a real estate agent in New Jersey. In 2019, he earned a master's degree in secondary education and teaching. As far as romantic contact, Christopher became involved with a teenager named Brianna Micciolo. On May 1, 2014, 17-year-old Brianna had a son named Corey Micciolo. Christopher was the father, but he did not know that at the time. He only learned about this later when Brianna sought child support. From that point on, Christopher and Brianna shared joint custody. In March 2020, Christopher was awarded full custody of Corey because Brianna had difficulty regulating her intake of substances. Christopher lived in
He's just given a brief overview. So if you actually stayed on the channel, the people that haven't heard about this case, you're getting a little bit of the same towards the end of the video. But he's going to also analyze him, the man baby, what he calls him. So thank you, Dr. Grande, for this.
Apartment in Barnegat, New Jersey, and Brianna lived in Englishtown, which is about an hour north. There was a lot of tension between Christopher and Brianna. Now moving to the timeline of the crime. On March 20, 2021, Christopher and his son entered the fitness center for the Atlantic Heights apartment complex. This is the apartment complex where Christopher lived. A surveillance camera captured their activity. Initially, Christopher was lifting weights as his son was on a treadmill. At some point, Christopher went over to the treadmill and increased the speed. Corey was unable to keep up and fell off the treadmill several times. Christopher could be seen picking Corey up and putting him back on the treadmill. After a few of the falls, Corey stood up on his own and tried to jump back onto the moving treadmill to continue running. He fell, slammed into the belt of the treadmill, and was thrown backward onto the floor. At one point during this ordeal, Christopher appeared to bite Corey's head. Corey sustained bruises during this incident. When his mother, Brianna, saw them, she filed an emergency order for custody, but it was denied on April 1, 2021. That same day, Brianna picked up Corey for scheduled visitation. She brought him to see a pediatrician. Eventually, Corey was evaluated in a hospital. He was discharged at 1 a.m., now on April 2. Brianna kept Corey that night and brought him back to Christopher at 9:03 a.m. At 3:48 p.m., still on April 2, Christopher brought Corey to the Southern Ocean Medical Center in Manahawkin. He told medical providers that Corey woke up from a nap, slurring his words, stumbling, nauseated, and experiencing shortness of breath. As a CT scan was being administered, Corey started having seizures. Medical providers attempted to save his life, but they were not successful. Corey was pronounced dead at 5:03 p.m. Christopher did not wait around to see what would happen next. Rather, he left the hospital. He drove to Tennessee before returning to New Jersey. On the next day, April 3, an autopsy was performed on Corey's body. The medical examiner ruled that Corey's death was caused by blunt force injuries with cardiac and liver contusions, acute inflammation, and sepsis. At that time, the manner of death was ruled undetermined. On July 7, 2021, Christopher was arrested and charged with endangering the welfare of a child in relation to the treadmill incident from March 20. Even though this was a serious charge, falling on the treadmill did not appear to cause Corey's death. Christopher was released on bail. In September 2021, Corey's case was reviewed by a forensic pathologist. The pathologist believed that 4 to 12 hours prior to Corey's death, he sustained blunt impact injuries to the chest and abdomen with laceration of the heart, left pulmonary contusion, and laceration and contusion of the liver. On March 3, 2022, Corey's manner of death was ruled homicide. On March 9, Christopher Gregor was arrested again and additionally charged with first-degree murder. The state claimed that he knowingly caused serious bodily injury resulting in the death of another. This time, Christopher was held without bail. The state put together their theory of the crime. It was fairly straightforward. They believed that Christopher severely beat Corey during the time he was alone with him on April 2, 2021.
Yep.
On April 30, 2024, over 3 years after Corey's death, Christopher's trial started. At the time I'm making this video, the trial has been going on for 3 days. Now moving to my analysis. Christopher Gregor maintains his innocence. His defense attorney argued that the treadmill incident is completely separate from Corey's death. Corey died as a result of sepsis caused by pneumonia, and it had nothing to do with Christopher's behavior. The state, of course, disagrees. They believe it is exceedingly clear that Christopher murdered his son. This brings me to the question, is Christopher guilty of murder? Let's take a look at the evidence both for and against the idea that he is guilty, starting with the inculpatory factors. On April 2, 2021, Christopher took Corey to a hospital where Corey died. No one else was with Corey in the hours leading up to his death. An expert for the state said that Corey died from blunt impact injuries. Christopher left the hospital and drove to Tennessee rather than waiting. About 2 weeks before Corey died, surveillance video captured Christopher mistreating Corey in the treadmill incident. Corey told a medical provider that his father forced him to run on the treadmill because he was too fat. The police said they could smell cleaned or dried vomit in Corey's bedroom in Christopher's apartment. On April 3, the day after Corey died, Brianna sent him a text message at 6:02 p.m. saying that the police were looking for him. At 6:09 p.m., Christopher used his phone to search the internet for the term, "Can your phone be tracked in airplane mode?" A minute later, he searched, "Can my car be tracked?" And
yeah, so now we're hearing some of the text messages and the analysis. I didn't really have time to get into the text messages since a lot of people were already kind of lost on the case and maybe haven't caught up with it, thought there was court today. There was no court today. So I thought today would be a good day to come in and fill in some of the gaps, although it's all over the place. Yes, overprotective. He is allegedly guilty. We got to remember that word so we don't get ourselves in trouble.
And will red marks turn into bruises? Christopher then sent a text message to his parents saying he would not be back for a while and asked if they would take care of his dog. On April 4 at 9:58 p.m., Christopher searched, quote, "There was a murder determined from an autopsy. How long to file charges?" Unquote. At 10:21 a.m., he searched, quote, "How long after an autopsy to file charges?" Unquote. At 12:17 p.m., Christopher sent a message to a woman on Tinder saying that he was going to see his brother in Los Angeles. In reality, Christopher was in Tennessee. He stayed there for one night before heading back to New Jersey. Brianna claimed that she reported many instances of mistreatment perpetrated.
Wow, he had time to go on Tinder and message some girl on Tinder about that in between. Very interesting. What's up, Miracle Hearts 2? I hope you're doing well. All right, let's keep going and see if I can get back on and do some Madeline Soto / Stephen Stern's preaching to the choir, folks.
Perpetrated by Christopher against Corey, but no one listened to her. Moving to the exculpatory factors, Christopher's defense indicated that experts would testify that Corey died from sepsis caused by pneumonia. As far as the other injuries observed on Corey, life-saving techniques used by medical providers could have been the cause. Even though the treadmill incident looks bad for Christopher, it seems clear that the injuries sustained during that incident did not lead to Corey's death. Corey was evaluated by medical providers after that incident. Based on the timeline, it is possible that the fatal injuries Corey sustained occurred before he was dropped off to Christopher. Corey was in a hospital being evaluated until 1 a.m. on April 2. He was with his mother at this time. She dropped him off to Christopher just after 9 a.m.
No, we don't have to say allegedly in chat. Only I have to say allegedly. We don't have to do anything, actually. We could do whatever we want. It just depends on what outcome we want from anything. You guys can say whatever you want in chat. No, it's just me. And the bigger the channel grows, the more heat I get from people, folks. So this case isn't about me, but this channel is. And it's crazy, the stuff that I didn't know was going on in YouTube world that I'm learning. So thank you all for being here with me. Let's finish up the analysis.
Christopher brought Corey to a different hospital where Corey died just after 5 p.m. According to a forensic pathologist, the injuries that killed Corey occurred 4 to 12 hours prior to his death. This means that Corey was attacked sometime between 5 a.m. and 1 p.m. During the first 4 hours of that time range, Corey was with Brianna. Christopher's defense argued that when Brianna took her son to the hospital, she was told that he might have sepsis as a result of complications from pneumonia. Brianna chose to take him out of the facility against medical advice and took him to Christopher. If she was so worried about Christopher harming Corey, why did she do that? On the stand, Brianna admitted that she regularly used methamphetamine years earlier.
There it is.
Just before Corey died on April 2, Brianna texted her boyfriend and asked him to get her methamphetamine. She admitted that after Corey died, she threw bones, eggs, rocks, and dead fish at the house where Christopher's parents lived. When considering all the evidence in this case, do I think that Christopher Gregor is guilty of murder? Yes, I believe he is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. When considering the treadmill incident, it's reasonable to believe that Christopher regularly mistreated Corey. The alleged fatal violence perpetrated on April 2 was probably just another attack in a long series. Christopher may not have intended to kill Corey, but he knew his actions could lead to death. There's no way to be sure about what a jury might do, but I would be surprised if Christopher was acquitted. When speaking about the treadmill incident, his defense attorney told the jury, "You're not going to like him." At least on this point, the attorney's assessment is accurate. What do I think happened in this case? This is just a theory, my opinion. Christopher Gregor is immature, impulsive, irresponsible, aggressive, vindictive, and sadistic. There are many reasons that Christopher allegedly mistreated Corey. For example, he wanted to teach Brianna a lesson. He was angry with her. It was his way of getting revenge on her. Or it's possible that Corey was a constant reminder of Brianna. Christopher saw Brianna in Corey, like he realized that Corey had some of her traits. This made Christopher upset. He wanted to eradicate those traits from Corey.
And remember, he didn't want to have Corey. He told her to get an abortion, folks. He SA'd her, and that's how she became pregnant. So, hello, Jen Brick. What's up? Watching from Connecticut, I'm assuming. So, yeah, and both parents are horrible. I agree. I'm not standing up for Bree. I'm just showing both sides. She did an injustice. She also tried to fix her, wrong her right. So, yep, all opinions are welcome here. We all have faults and we've all made mistakes. She tried to fix her mistakes. Again, people have abortions. What do you think? Do you think she should have listened to Christopher Gregor and had one because of the situation? Like, why is she a horrible parent? And why is he? We know why he is, but because she was using methamphetamines or because because she called for an emergency custody, because she egged somebody's house, because she had Corey when she was 16. I just want to know your thoughts on that, and everybody else that's saying that. I want to know what I'm seeing and what you're seeing. Maybe I'm missing something.
After allegedly murdering Corey, Christopher fled because he knew he was guilty. He searched for the term, "there was a murder determined from an autopsy, how long to file charges," because he knew that he had committed murder. After Christopher was arrested, he was offered a plea bargain. The terms indicated that he would plead guilty to both the murder and the endangering charge in exchange for 30 years in prison. Normally, in New Jersey, a prisoner must serve 85% of their sentence, but the terms of this plea bargain indicated that Christopher would serve the entire 30-year term. There was no way to get released before 30 years. This meant that instead of being eligible for parole at the age of 57, which factors in the 85% rule, he would have been in prison until the age of 62. One can appreciate why Christopher would not be excited to spend 30 years in prison, and worse.
Right, he got offered 30 years, and Davey, all drugs come with cultural values that they enhance. Also, sometimes people turn to those when they're essayed or whatever else, we don't know, but nobody's perfect. I don't know what else that she did. I know that she had him and she did her best having him after. Again, I'm not defending her, but I'm showing you what happened to her and what she did. So I'm not really exactly sure what else she did. If you can let me know what other things that she did wrong. And I see the things that she tried to right. And I know that she definitely shouldn't have been using drugs. And especially that day, that was just like the worst day of all days.
She had 30 years in New Jersey. But the plea bargain Christopher was offered was actually a good deal. The minimum sentence he is facing if convicted of murder is 30 years in prison. The maximum is life in prison. In addition, the expected sentence for the endangerment charge is between 5 and 10 years. Rejecting the plea deal just doesn't make any sense at all, and supports the theory that Christopher is living in a fantasy world where he can avoid all responsibility for his behavior. Now moving to my final thoughts. As I mentioned, Brianna said that she alerted the authorities many times about Christopher's bad behavior, but no one listened to her. It's possible that she was ignored because of her history of substance use, or simply because she was involved in a custody dispute. It is not unusual for individuals in these types of disputes to lie about each other. The lesson learned in this case is how it's important for the authorities to investigate all allegations, even those made by people who may have an ulterior motive. One thing about this case is certain. The circumstances conspired in such a way that Corey did not have any chance of remaining safe. The treadmill incident is a metaphor for his impossible situation. No matter how fast he tried to run, there was no way to escape. Those are my thoughts in the case of Christopher Gregor. Please put any opinions and thoughts in the
All right. Well, we appreciate you, and we hope to hear from Deception Detective next. We hope to be able to take this case and wrap it up hopefully soon. I hope Christopher Gregor takes the stand. I really want to see how the jury takes in what he has to say. I want to see what his excuses are. I want to say why he did what he did, because he's going to have to tell them, explain how he did what he did on the treadmill, why he sped it up, why there was bruises. He's going to have to explain a lot. And I know he's going to say, like a baby boy, like a man baby, I know he's going to say, well, I was scared and I didn't know what to do, so I left. I know what he's going to say already. And KJ says, I am defending her. She's clean now, and I think she was going to use that day, but then didn't. Yeah, I have a lot of people that are like on her side about this, and then it's the Jennifer Soto folks that are saying, and I'm not saying it's the same ones, I'm just saying the people that are defending Jennifer Soto are also coming at me with this. And I'm not defending Bree. I don't even know Bree at all. I'm just reporting on what I see here, folks. So 125 right now. Hit that like button. Yeah, I report it as I see it. So I don't understand why people come at me all like crazy sideways, messaging me all mad about whatever. I don't know. But I'm showing you video. I didn't film that video. Didn't create it, didn't AI it, anybody. So I want you guys to hit that like button. I want to get this in the algorithm so we can get justice for Corey and other children. If you like the way I present the cases and how I'm starting to grow and also collaborate with other folks, I am starting to, they see my videos because of you all. They do, which gives me the opportunity to have guests on the show, bring back guests on the show, and do a lot more things and use other people's content with them, without them, whatever. Eat the cupcake, says Chris will absolutely take the stand, no question. That's because he's a narcissist who needs control. Watch him during trial. He constantly is talking to his attorney during testimony. I hope so. I would absolutely love to see him take the stand and watch him backpedal. It's just going to go down in history, and we can learn things from history in these cases. Bye, PG Deb. Bye, see you later. It means starting to perceive your channel as being influential. Well, that's awesome. Is that why I'm getting a bunch of hate messages too? Like it's in between. I either get hate or love. It's weird. It's interesting, but I do respond in a nice way, and I care about what you have to say, and I'm not going to respond bad. We're right down the middle, folks. I don't make these things up. They come to me. Toodles. See you later. Jay, I was coming at you at all. No, I didn't think you were, KJ. I don't think anybody's coming at me. I just think it's funny what the comments and the emails I wish I could show you all the emails and all the comments that I get. Like I did something to somebody, or I did this case. I'm the one that abused somebody. If a man baby was so abusive, that don't bring the son to him. Okay, thank you, Byrne, for saying that. I agree, but had she not, it was court order. Then she would be in a predicament where she was, then she was kidnapping. So if she kidnapped him, then you wouldn't like her, and nobody else would like her if she was kidnapping him. She went through the court system, and the court is supposed to protect us. So when the judge saw the treadmill, he saw that video, and then he still let him go with him. I agree, but she was trying to do the right thing. So on that level, I have to say, you saw the video at the beginning, right? She needed money to raise her child, which all of us would like to have another partner, ideally. He got her pregnant through a essay, and then that's what happened. So I'm not really sure. Yeah, both sides of the opinion. I do put both sides up. Absolutely. And I'm not arguing with anyone. I'm just telling you, no, you guys say whatever you want. You guys can say whatever you want, but I have a voice too, and I'll say something back in a smart way. We'll say it that way. So yeah, you guys can you can't go against a court order. I know that firsthand. Thank you, Bree. You can't go against a court order or you'll be in jail or you'll be kidnapping. They call it kidnapping if you don't bring your child where they need to be. Yeah, what a chump. And you're right, they did fail Corey. Absolutely. They failed her and Corey, and I can't say that enough. Jay is guilty of having an awesome channel, guilty of being awesome, guilty. Yes. And keep messaging me. You're getting in the algorithm. When you send me these messages, you're just getting at me in the algorithm. So yeah, she tried her best. Thank you all. I love that we can sit here and talk about it and nobody gets upset, nobody cusses. We can have an intelligent conversation and agree to disagree, folks. So on that note, PG, I thought you were leaving. Justice for Corey. You said bye like 3 times, but thank you for saying justice for Corey. I appreciate it. Eat the Cupcake, Bree and Corey were victims of systematic bias against moms who struggle with drugs. He also called all over and threw her under the bus constantly. Of course he did. She did not want to break the court order. The court sent court. Exactly. She didn't want to go to jail. She was trying to do the right thing. Both mother and father failed Corey. So did the judge. So did a lot of the CPS. So did the teachers, if we want to go there. I mean, thank you, Maria. However, I appreciate you and everybody that comments helps the channel. So I'm never going to say don't comment. Well, thank you. Drugs. Of course, drugs are never the answer. Bernie, we appreciate that. And maybe you can email me. Maybe you have programs in your area that you can send over so that you can spread the word about places that can help people that have been essayed and they need therapy and they can't afford it or they whatever. Yeah, please. Justice for all kids. I appreciate that. Yeah, thank you, of course. And Bernie, you have a good weekend. We appreciate your comments. They're just as valid as anyone else. Bree made over 100 calls to CPS. That is a problem. So CPS failed Corey. The judge failed Corey. The mom at some point did fail Corey by doing drugs and not dealing with her stuff, but she outgrew it, and hopefully it stays that way. All right, the final blows came after he was evaluated. He may have thought he was losing him and didn't want her to have him. He didn't care about him. He just wanted the control, and he didn't want to pay child support. He didn't even want him. If you run, it shows guilt. Well, look at O.J. Simpson, though. O.J. Simpson ran, and he still got off. So you just never know. Maria says, I'm an angry mom who loses her child when the father was not in the child's life. Well, thank you for coming here and sharing with us. We appreciate that. All right, everybody, if you want me to be able to come back on, I have to get off. I love each and every single one of you. Thank you all for coming and supporting. It's a Friday night, 5:49 p.m. in California. Hopefully I'll see you soon. Stay tuned. Love you all.
Guilty of crime.
I want to thank you for watching. If you enjoyed my content, please share this video, like, and subscribe. You can also follow me over at Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, X, or Gmail. If you'd like to donate to my channel, you can use Cash App or Venmo or PayPal. Thank you very much in advance. Guilty of crime.
Are you guilty of crime?
Who?